Growing up, I never had a grasp of my mother tongue, Cantonese, because I never thought I'd use it. I'm in my 30s now, and I feel like I always had to make up for lost ground. I grew up in a predominantly white background, so 95% of all words that came out of my mouth was English. Of course, all of my friends and teachers they would use English, and I only use Cantonese for basic replies like I need my back scratched, I need a shower, I need food, these simple things. And I never had the foresight back then on how much I really needed to use Cantonese in the future. I just thought I'd never really needed it, and it just never crossed my mind. So there was never a point to learning it. Now I'm an adult, I feel like my mindset back then has bitten me in the back a little bit. I moved to Hong Kong, so my circumstances have greatly changed. And I'm needing to use a language way more frequently than I used to. I think the realization came as soon as I went to university and I was exposed to multiculturalism. Something clicked, and at that point I realized I wanted to learn the language more and become closer to my family. From then on, I understood that there was a big uphill battle to learn the language, and there was also a bit of a mental hurdle. I was kind of in denial a little bit with how much I knew the language, just because I heard it a lot of Cantonese in my childhood. It didn't mean that I knew the language well, and this proved to be a mental barrier all through my 20s. I thought to myself, oh, I know more than the basics. I don't need to go back and learn the basics all over again. I was wrong. How was I supposed to push through beginner, intermediate, let alone advanced, if I couldn't even fully grasp the fundamentals of being a beginner? It's like learning to run in a marathon before learning to walk even. So for the longest time, I was trying to run and compete in this conceptual marathon and was running myself into fatigue, basically. I would blame myself for not being able to construct basic sentence structures and form my own sentences. And this really affected my enjoyment and motivation of learning the language. Right, now onto the meat of the topic. You may be in the same position as me. You may have regrets about wanting to learn the language of your mother tongue in the past. But despite these regrets, I really don't believe it's ever too late to learn. It doesn't matter how young or old you think you are. And you know what? If you're already thinking that question, that's good because it shows you care. You're already way ahead of those people who think they have no connection to their mother tongue. All you need to do is find a learning method that works for you, and then you just practice. In my personal journey, I had to accept myself, and who I am is based off my experiences as a child, and I can only do things now to bridge the gap, to make up for lost ground between me and my mother tongue. And actually, do I think language learning as a kid is easier than language learning as an adult? Most experts will probably tell you yes. Kids are a bit more impressionable and they're more likely to have spent more time around with that language, driven by the parents and their surroundings. But I think language learning as an adult does come with its own advantages. We look at things as an adult like a blueprint, and we understand how sentences and grammar patterns are formed. If you have motivation, a purpose maybe, if you're similar to me that you want to communicate to your family better, then you also have that natural advantage. I didn't grasp this idea when I was a kid. I was a really shy kid, and it was really hard to build trust with other people. I acted like a mental hurdle because I barely talked. And because I barely talked, rarely did I have to speak my mother tongue, unless I really needed to. When I asked my mom why I didn't learn Cantonese as a kid, that would be the exact same answer I got back. And I would feel a little bit upset about that response. But I know that was true. Over time, my confidence in speaking grew. At least now I'm able to push past that mental barrier and force myself to speak to locals, and even speaking to you guys here on YouTube. I mean, in general, we face difficulties too as adults, to be fair. We're burdened with things that we didn't have to when we were younger, like jobs and money and relationships, looking after your family when they get too old. The language learning, I guess, is like hobbies, is understandably something that has to take up less space in your mind when you have to prioritize these other things. We're also growing up in an age where we have mind-boggling amounts of resources to learn from. Along with all the traditional methods, now with all the digital learning apps that we have online, resources, and with education, nobody really knows what works best for everyone. I find myself completely overwhelmed sometimes as well. So my advice would be to stick with what you know what works best for you. It would take some initial discovery, a little bit of struggle to find what resources might work for you. But at the same time, don't be afraid to try new things. If you're 100% comfortable in spending money on resources to help you learn, then do it. I do accept that there are different challenges at different stages of my life. Like I still have challenges that I have to face now when speaking the language. For instance, when I speak to locals right now, I often feel like I'm expected to know how to communicate. Because I look Chinese. So there's this element of they're judging me sort of thing. Like if I was unable to put together a sentence that I needed to, then they would look at me and they'd probably think I'm a bit worthless. And of course there's always going to be ignorant people like that, but that's just part of the language learning journey. Like you just have to face humiliation. I have to learn to forgive my past self and not go too hard on my current self. I just simply just go with the flow. And not even that long ago, right, I live in a service apartment and I had to ask a staff member to help do something like, I can't remember what it was, I think it was turning on the aircon or something. And when I was asking him, I somehow just stumbled on my words and I just completely lost it. Like I was so embarrassed. And yeah, I know it was really embarrassing. And to be honest, I'm kind of expecting more of that stuff to happen to me anyway. It's just something about humility that you have to get comfortable with when you're speaking a language that's not native to you. Because don't forget, if you don't make mistakes, you won't learn from them. I accept that learning Cantonese is going to be a journey that will last my lifetime. I set my own expectations of myself. I'm going to learn at my own pace and not fool myself to believing that I'll be fluent within a couple of years. So don't set your expectations too high. Find means to break through your mental barriers. Then nothing will really stop you from mastering your language. Just find what works for you. And once things start to click for you, then speaking in your target language is going to be so fun. You keep going as you are and don't forget your own roots. I'm Elvin Speaks. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a great day and I'll see you soon.